Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
A summary about this company. I just walked in, as you saw. It's wide open, nobody's here. Front door's open, back door's open. And so this is a NIRA LLC. It's a clinical lab in Crystal Lake ran by Mohammed Ibrahim Quadri, who is allegedly billing Blue Cross Blue Shield for multiple tests that were never, ever performed. And I have evidence, which I will show on Thursday. I'll show some here today, too. Of just one individual who was charged 32 times for testing lab services that were never done. Huge, you guys, all right? It's been empty, doors wide open for over a month, right? Look at this. And what's in all of these? These are Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is what's in there. So they're not even opening their mail from Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is huge. All these bags are full of unopened Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois claims. All of them. So why aren't they answering it? Why isn't there anybody here? Why do they have equipment here that's not even plugged in? Why they got new equipment here that's never been used? It's big. There's a little baby Nick Shirley thing I got going on here, I think.
63% of Republicans believe the 2020 election was stolen, and 83% of Americans support requiring photo ID to vote. These numbers highlight the deep divisions and common ground on election integrity.
Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. Terry, still with us?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I can't hear you guys.
So the audio's out again? You're not able to...
It stopped like in the middle.
I don't know what to tell you then, Terry. Something's going on with your computer.
It's on my phone now.
Well, that I don't know what to tell you.
I'm going to read the kickoff, then I'm going to let you guys do the show. I can't hear you. I don't know. It's my phone and my computer. All right. So Jody and Ken Zicko, thank you very much. You've been on the show before, and Jody and Ken are experts in Illinois for the voter fraud, and they've been spending so much time and effort on this. So glad to have you on and enlighten some of the folks here. So tonight we're going to talk about the growing alliance between medical fraud networks and voter fraud operations, a sophisticated double dip scam, stealing your money and undermining our votes. These criminals are evolving fast. They're using fake records, kickbacks, insider access. They turn healthcare scams like the Macon County, Georgia case, where the therapist allegedly billed millions for ghost sessions with help from the County Board of Elections supervisor, in case you didn't know about that, look that up, an elections clerk, and into controlling the ballots for profiting from Medicare and insurance fraud while being involved with voter fraud. They share tactics, vulnerable populations, lacks oversight, and they let them line their pockets while tilting elections. This isn't random. It's coordinated profit and power. We're going to break it down with some of the evidence we have combined with Jody and Ken's and some of the stuff that we just showed you to show you how important it is, and we have to wake up. So this is a message to our GOP leadership, or lack thereof. GOP leadership that is not acknowledging this, not taking it serious, right? We just had some some issues in the last few days that they're not taking it serious, and I think they're kowtowing to the Democrats. If you don't treat us with respect and do the right thing, help us fix voting in the state of Illinois, you're not going to get our people out to vote. So stop worrying about the Democrats. People don't want to vote because they don't think you have the balls, the guts, the know-how to help us win. And when you say there's no voter fraud, that's a problem. So Illinois GOP leaders who think this is just a red state problem, wake up. With our corruption history, vulnerable seniors, and election risk, ignoring these sophisticated medical fraud voters is surrendering to them. Demand aggressive oversight, audits, voter roll cleanups, federal coordination now. Complacency is no longer an option, and you've done that for 10 years, and you gave the damn state up to the Democrats. So I'm done. I can't hear a word you're saying. So you guys pick it up from here, and I'll go watch it upstairs. Have fun.
All right, Terry.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for having us
Okay.
on, Terry. And I guess you just said a mouthful. So trying to respond to some of that, we don't like to say election fraud. Nothing's running right. So we have a lot of evidence that the elections are not being administered according to the law. They can't prove the results. They're not auditable. We have no transparency. We have millions of questions for the director of elections in our state. We've provided a written complaint and a scorecard that outlines over 4 million questions, as a matter of fact, about registrations that are either apparently illegal on their face or illogical, like a voter who appears to be 120 years old and is actively participating in elections. So, that's where our focus is, but certainly we've seen and observed plenty of data that would suggest an overlap between these systems and these opportunities for, if somebody can game a system, they're going to try to do it. So I think there's a couple of pieces that are interesting. That 250,000 non-citizen voter number that Trump talked about on Thursday. Election experts are coming out, like the Brennan Center, of course, lefties are coming out and saying, oh, Trump's lying, he's wrong. That's his administration just saying what he wants them to say. And that number's too high. That number's not high. It's low.
No. Well, and it doesn't even include everybody. That only includes states that are in compliance right now and have been sharing their voter information with the feds. So we already know that's going to be lowball with anything. If you're saying there's 4,000 potentially fraudulent or 4 million potentially fraudulent voters in Illinois, I'd have some serious questions there. That number is probably a fraction of the total. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that there were millions of illegal registered voters here. I mean, we can even just take this on its face. How does Wisconsin have more people registered to vote than live in the state? So these should be raising red flags everywhere. Everybody just saw what happened in California. I mean, it's a joke.
Right. And the reality is, they're focusing on citizens and non-citizens right now. But the truth is that 250,000 number, that might just be, they're saying they're not citizens. They might actually not be people at all.
Right.
We've done a
Yes.
phantom voter report in Illinois and found that about 15% of the quote unquote people on the voter rolls, we can't find any proof that they're actual people who exist anywhere.
And not in the cemeteries either. I want to rule that out as well, since we are talking Illinois.
Right. And that phantom voter report was done in a particular way that, from methods and means, essentially, in the research that's done to determine if they're real people. It's a pretty deep dive. So it's not.
Right. And that's right. There's other organizations out there saying that they're validating our work or checking it, and they don't know where we're coming up with these numbers. We are. We take this very seriously, and this particular report we don't do in-house because there's organizations out there where they provide a professional service of finding people who don't want to be found. So in this case, this should be easy because these people aren't necessarily not trying to be found. They're just difficult to track down because their data doesn't make sense. So they evaluated people. Does the person exist? Does the address they say they live in exist? Did the person and the address ever match in history? And then did it do so at the time that they supposedly voted in this election? And then along the way, when they do that, if the person is passing all those tests along the way, that organization, not us, that organization would find what supposedly is the social security number for that person. So then they check that and make sure, is it, or is it even a social security number? So it's an exhaustive study, and still 14.9% of those voters, they could not find any proof that they exist.
And
Well,
Terry made a comment about a red state, blue state, and I just want to sort of throw in here while he's talking about the phantom voter reports. Illinois is not the only state we've done that type of report in, and in Texas, uniquely, we did the same analysis, and they're at 14.2%. So it's time for people to wake up. This isn't necessarily a blue state problem, right?
yeah. Well, and 14% is enough to swing most elected positions. I mean, there's very
Correct.
few states that either Trump or Kamala won with higher than a 14-point margin. Look at every House member we have. I mean, most of these races are within 2 to 5%, or a lot are even closer to that. So we'll round down, we'll call it 14% of the electorate. That's enough to basically shift any race you wanted to win nationwide, with very, very few exceptions.
For sure.
Yeah, your bluest of blue and reddest of red are about the only ones that are going to be outside of a 14% margin of fraud, we'll call it. So again, if you just took 14% of the ballots and shifted it from candidate A to candidate B, that might be enough to do it there, right there. Because I mean, that's 28 points. Then we're talking about now. Obviously, it's not going to be that simple because they wouldn't be ballots that were just counted in one column or the other. But that alone is mass disruption, and this is only one facet of the problem that our electoral system is looking at in all 50 states right now.
Correct.
Right.
It's an urgent call to action for every person out there that's paying attention, really.
Right. And then coming back to Terry's comments about the medical fraud, again, that's not something we've studied directly, but you're talking about 15% of the state a government list consists of fictitious identities. Well, once you've created the person, why wouldn't you use that identity to maximize your capacity to accomplish fraud? So it'd be medical fraud and welfare and you name it.
Well, and just to pin the tail on that here real quick, too, in Georgia's election a few years ago, I know when Candace Taylor, when she was running for governor, we had thousands upon thousands of reports of people showing up at the polls and then being told that they had already voted, or they'd voted by mail, or they voted early, or whatever else. So again, it's not Illinois, but it's another state where somebody has this information. Somebody is voting in place of people. Again, if it was 2 or 3 reports, I'd say, the person probably forgot they mailed in a ballot. Maybe their neighbors stole it. Obviously, there's going to be some things that happen that are beyond anybody's control, that no matter what measures we put in, there's still going to be a small number of errors or malfeasance. But when you have it happening in mass and only with one group of voters, I mean, when you have, again, medical records, name, date of birth, address, social security number, you don't need anything else in any state to register to vote beyond those things. You're going in and showing them an ID. But if you've got an inside man, or you're just filling out the documents fraudulently and sending them in, you can change somebody's voter registration, make their ballot show up where you want to, or go in and vote in place for them. Again, especially if you've got inside people allowing this corruption to happen, as what appears to be the case in Michigan, for example. I mean, by their own account, Detroit, I always forget what county they're in, but Detroit, their county could only account for 29 to 31% of the vote that were cast on election day in 2020. They admitted that themselves. And then we recently found out that they have 26,000 ballots that were counted improperly, that did not have proper chain of custody or documentation, that were mail-in ballots. 26,000, which again is enough to shift the winner from the state.
Totally. And I mean, how many states? We've done this analysis in 35 states. So we have a report that actually shows a summary of those 35 states. I don't know if you want to highlight 1 or 2 here or there, Ken, just to bring attention to the broadness of our analysis.
Right. Well, I guess the first thing that's worth mentioning is 35 states we've covered so far, and not one meets the legal standard for a certifiable election.
That's insane.
There's a variety of criteria that we could, evaluate any given state by. The easiest is, or least complicated, I guess I should say, is HAVA, that defines an actual error rate for your election. And the smallest error rate we found so far is Oklahoma with 7%, and it's supposed to be 8/10,000ths of a percent. So they're still thousands of times greater error rate than they're allowed to have. So it was just one of those situations where we're so far outside of where we're supposed to be. Within Unite for Freedom, we like to use the term complete loss of control. That really is where we're at with our elections. We can't prove the outcome. And you would think by now, 2020 happened and everybody was up in arms. And certainly at that time, it was more conservatives than not who were arguing about the election. But we're now
Yeah.
2 years into Trump term, and everybody who is fighting for elections and was really interested in fixing them is still here. It's not like we went, our guy won, let's go home.
Yep.
It's still a problem. We
Right.
can't prove that Trump won in 24, just like they can't prove Biden won in 2020. They're unprovable. There's nothing there.
Right. And I will say, just to also Terry's point about, he was kind of a call to action or a call to wake up on the, GOP. We've been doing this for 4 years, and we started doing this working for a local, a candidate who was running for U.S. Senate. It's 4 years in, in Illinois, we have about 500 volunteers, and across our organization, we have almost 12,000 volunteers across Unite for Freedom. And we're a little tired. I'll be honest. I mean, I don't know about you, but we're getting tired, and I just worry about, what happens if, that they run the clock out or whatever is going on here that's slowing things down. I mean, we're in a mode where we need to do something now with the last 2 years of Trump's presidency, because he is bringing attention, not for any other reason than he's willing to bring this to light. And, there's so much evidence that, in the declassification that he's sharing with us, that this should wake up every American. This is a nonpartisan issue, totally. And,
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, you have the media just not touching the story at all, or dismissing it, pretending like, as that opening segment said, oh, there's not really anything here. They're just amplifying things. I mean, every American should already be worried, since there's 220 million IDs that China gained access to during this, even though, again, they're dismissive of it. But this shouldn't be anything new either. If the media were just doing their job for the last 4 years, they know about the Chinese gentleman in California that was storing their voted database on servers in China. Same with Michigan. It was the same company. And sorry, I'm blanking on his name, but he's in jail right now.
Eugene Yu.
Yep, there you go. Good. Yeah.
company
Sorry.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, Connex
Company-
Systems. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually familiar with another guy that was working in one of those agreements with them, and reported him, who also actually ran for office in West Virginia but didn't make the cut. But he was investigating them as well. Shout out to Nate over there. Yeah, I mean, when the problem, even in your best example, Oklahoma, when it's orders of magnitude worse than what's supposed to be the worst case scenario, we have to admit we have a problem. And the voter databases in every single state need to be redone before this upcoming election, and it needs to be monitored. We need to make sure it's only valid citizens voting. Honestly, I think the voter databases are so corrupt at this point, they just need to be burned to the ground. We have to start over, or this is just going to continue.
Right.
Right.
So coming back to Nate and the work he did, he actually did that with our chairman, Harry Howry. And so they found, tracked down that information, collected the data that demonstrated that you're right. Connick had collected just petabytes of U.S. election data. They had proof that it had made its way to servers in China, CCP servers in China. And, between the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and the DOJ at the time, which was, of course, Biden's DOJ, they just stifled that case, and it died. It died on the vine, and there was no reason for that. That thing needs to be brought back to life after everything that Trump had to say about China and what, we've discovered, and the evidence that he talks about that he has. That thing should be brought back out of mothballs, and they need to figure out what really happened there.
Well, I think we've had Nate Kane on here on Behind Enemy Lines before. I know I've had him on my program a few times. We're going to have to reach back out to him and refresh everybody's memory on that.
Yeah, definitely should. And then talking about the cleaning the voter rolls in the GOP, that's just a really sore subject. They've been pushing get out the vote since after the 22 midterm.
Yeah.
We were in Rock Island when Don Tracy introduced that great new idea, the way they were going to turn Illinois red, and they just exhausted thousands of man hours and tens of thousands of dollars on this get out the vote campaign. And the primary for 2024 had the worst turnout in 50 years.
Yep.
And then the 24 election happens, and the GOP is celebrating the tremendous success we had because we reduced the margin of loss, I guess you'd call it. Trump was within 11% of Harris, and I think he was like 17% away from Biden. But if you look at that's exactly the way they talk about it. They reduced the margin of victory to 11%. Yeah. But if you talk about the numbers, Trump got about 2,000 more votes in 24 than he did in 2020. The whole shift was all about 400,000 voters who didn't show for Harris. So the Get Out the Vote campaign, whose entire initiative is all about getting people to vote, is celebrating 400,000 people not coming to vote.
That's incredible, but I'm honestly not surprised. But when you have a 11% margin of failure, I guess you got to lie to yourself and pretend somehow that's a victory. Sorry, what was that?
I just said, yay, 11. We only lost by 11%.
Well, that just goes to Terry's point of calling on them to say, hey, you got to stand up to this game that's being played, especially in blue states like Illinois and California and New York.
Yeah.
It's the same game across all three states.
Well, that's the big problem. Is a lot of these people just seem to be cowards. They don't want to fight. They want to go back to business as usual, where we just get along with the Democrats and we reach across the aisle and we do whatever they want. And the voters are sick of that. That's part of why they don't turn out. If you can't send the message during the campaign that you're actually going to fight and you're going to do something to pull bricks down from the blue wall, then I don't want to hear from you. And I think a lot of people feel that same way. The party leadership in Illinois is just pathetic, unfortunately. Kathy Solby might have been a really nice person, but she wasn't getting the job done. It sounds like replacement's not doing much better. But it's also the county parties and the unwillingness to fight. I mean, you guys had at least 4 candidates in that state that were left off precincts or entire counties, and the party is like, oh, you know what? Mistakes happen. We'll get them next time, boys. And that people are tired of that. That does not fly anymore.
No.
Right. That's exactly right. And it's those sorts of failures that I don't know how long they think they're going to fool people with that repetitive, oops, better luck next time kind of attitude. It doesn't fly. It's clear that Illinois is a one-party state and everybody's participating. They don't want to fix it because whatever is going on in the system, they figured out how to work the system.
Yeah, and I don't know if they make agreements for table scraps so that, the GOP gets to keep some local seat as long as they take it on the chin for this one or that one. But unfortunately, some of the people who are pushed out would have been good candidates. Maybe they wouldn't have been able to win the seats they were after, but I think some of them could have. I think some of them could have made a real dent into the power structure there. We're working with a candidate that's running right now in Florida's 24th. And, this is a district that even after redistricting in Florida, they were not expecting to win. They were expecting this to be a Democrat victory, but she keeps inching closer and closer and closer. It went from a D plus 22 district to now she's within 10 points. I consider that striking distance considering we have till November, but you have to actually try. When you don't show up to the fight, when forget even getting off the bench, they're not even in the arena, you can't win anything. And this is the problem. And this is why in blue states like Illinois or California or New York, the GOP just feels defeated because it is defeated, because the leadership is worthless. So guys, if you live in Illinois, now is the time to retake your party. Go run for positions. Get people in there that actually want to win, that do want to address these problems. I want to ask, hey, why are these 5 million people that may or may not exist on our voter rolls? And shouldn't we look into that? Because again, the fraud goes well beyond that. We're not even getting into the machines and then being able to connect to the internet, which again, that is also illegal, which we should be banning those from use in all 50 states. We're not even getting into all the other problems. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The Save America Act addresses one facet of the problem, but it is a major facet: the mail-in ballot fraud, and then actually having to show voter ID with proof of citizenship, so we know that only U.S. citizens are voting, except for a very small number of outlying cases, because again, it's never going to be totally perfect. But I'm willing to accept, 1 out of a million illicit ballots across the country because somebody fell through the cracks or was actually trying to cheat and deceive our elections. But we've got to at least try. You have to at least show up to the fight.
We do, and we need people to keep voting. I mean, I don't want to be sending a message of defeatist. I want people to keep getting out the vote and showing up.
Yeah.
I mean, here at Unite for Freedom, we believe in, like, we've created this incredible amount of evidence across the nation that presents, these serious issues. And we do feel like, we're at a time, and it is at a national scale, that we want to take this, to the next step and take some legal action, at least with our evidence. And I know we have a number of pro se litigants that are filing HAVA complaints. We have one in Missouri and Colorado, New York, Texas. We just filed in Illinois. So, there's opportunities to learn how to do that. I know that there's been some focus on that. We have to take our country back, and we have to become responsible for this. We may not have created this problem, but we do, we need to do what's necessary to get our arms around it and get it fixed. So,
and like you said, we do need people who are willing to step up and be candidates. I mean, part of the problem is, who do you vote for in Illinois if you're a conservative? I mean, it's like, just rough. So,
I know.
We need good candidates, and then we need a system that we can trust. Right now, we're having a hard time in both categories, but Unite for Freedom is working on the system, and we don't intend to rest until we have a system that's auditable, transparent, and one with provable results. So that'll solve that end of the equation. And we just need, like Jody said, people need to continue to participate and vote. And part of participating in elections, obviously, is running.
Yes, you're exactly right that that does make it difficult when there's not anybody good to vote for. It's a bunch of wishy-washy, yellow-bellied, pickle-kissing rhinos. Why do people want to get off their butt and go to the polls, stand in line, and vote? But that's, again, why we need fresh blood. And I think part of solving the problem with the elections will solve the other problem too, because do you no longer feel defeated? Do you feel like you do have a real chance in winning? Then people are going to once again get excited. But if the person that's running is not a real fighter, is not saying, hey, I want to go to Chicago, I want to find out, I want to audit the city, I want to find out where all our money is going, I want to actually hold people accountable, because that's the other thing that's really been demoralizing for people out here is, we're a year and a half in now on Trump's administration, and I don't know about you, but I haven't seen anybody of substance arrested yet. I would hope that when Trump made this speech on election integrity and released the data with China and everything else that came out, that, at the same time, I keep hearing that we have somewhere between 84 and 86 indictments for various people in Fulton County, in Georgia. He should have said, hey, we're arresting 86 people in Georgia right now, and the interrogations start tonight. Get your lawyers ready. We need to do the same thing in Arizona. We need big action there. How did 30,000 extra ballots show up between when they left Maricopa County and showed up at Runbeck Systems? And how come, nobody can answer this question after how many years now? We need to start looking at these things, but we need prosecutions. I mean, you got to have people's neck in the noose if you want them scared enough to either come forward and talk or actually do something about this. We have to see justice. We have to actually go back to a system that people trust. If the voters no longer have confidence in the system, then you no longer have consent of the governed, and you can already see what path that leads us down. But I think a lot of people feel like we're already there.
I agree. I do think, though, for the last 5-6 6 years, people have been hearing mixed signals between the mainstream media and those of us who've been in this fight and know the truth
Yes.
and are fighting for the truth. And we've been, for the most part, we get opportunities like this, but you're never going to see us on CNN or maybe even Fox
Yeah.
telling this truth. And so for many people, I knew it kind of moment happened on Thursday, right? And so we got to bring them along on this journey. And I believe, from my perspective, I believe that we're doing this through, it's going to be a real we the people effort. I think, there's Unite for Freedom isn't really about any one particular personality or influencer, or, we're really just a bunch of, really good people, but just
Concerned citizens.
people, really concerned citizens trying to make a difference. And we are finally at a point where I think the tides are shifting. That was a pivotal moment on Thursday, and we're ready, but we have to be ready to ride with those the tides of change here, and
Yes.
and bring people along. And people need to stand up, show up. If they aren't able to donate their time, donate resources. I mean, we're in the process of, we're just a small group of people that are trying to accomplish something big. And, we need a little bit of resources to do that, as it relates to filing lawsuits and having, attorneys show up to do that for us. We're doing a lot of the work ourselves, but we need a little boost. So I would say that would be something we'd be looking for. But the constitutional, republic deserves elections that are transparent and that are following the law, and that we, the people, can verify independently, because some of the stuff that happened in 2020, it wanted so badly to be verified, and we were trying really hard to get to the bottom of it. And we do need to see some, I think we need some closure to Fulton, and we need some closure to Arizona, and
we need some accountability.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah.
That's missing. That's why everybody feels like it. We've talked to a lot of people who, the day after the 2020 election, they're like, we got robbed. They were convinced that something horrible happened, and they wanted to get to the bottom of it. And they've told us the whole story. 8 months later, when nothing had happened, they heard story after story about, next Thursday something big is happening. Oh, at the inauguration. No, at this date is really those special. One thing after the other. Eventually, they're like, I guess maybe I was wrong. Maybe something horrible didn't happen, because they're confused, because no accountability. And, that needs to happen. We need to help people not feel crazy about what they saw, and understand what the law is and follow it.
Right. I would say to anyone who's listening tonight and still kind of questioning it, or has a question mark, or isn't sure what to believe or trust, I would encourage them to go to our website. I mean, we have 100 dedicated data technologists, specialists, architects that have, pulled together this evidence. And we have so many great reports that communicate very clearly there's a major problem. And, it really is just reflecting all the hard work so many patriots have been doing for the last 6 years. I just say, do your own research and go get the answers, and then stand up and take a stand with the rest of us.
Right. It's easier now. You can do it with us. You don't have to stand up by yourself.
Yeah, that's true too. Because again, you did feel like you were alone in the wilderness to begin with. Everybody watched the counting stop in 7 states at 2, 3 in the morning. Mysteriously, water pipes broke that didn't break. But I think that's part of the problem. Is we expected investigations, we expected states to do things, but instead the Uniparty came together and they blocked investigation early on. They dismissed court cases. They said you didn't have standing. Oh, well, you should have filed this before the election. Well, you can't file this now after the election. Oh, sorry, this state's already certified. We can't do anything. I mean, you have the Supreme Court of Georgia. Of Arizona, refused to hear parts of lawsuits that, okay, well, we're going to let you admit this lawsuit, but we're not going to go over these 2 points on it. And I think there was this cabal that wanted to make sure Trump did not win in 2020, that the TDS was real. They used COVID as a smokescreen, and they thought this would be that they would be able to permanently seize the the power structure in the country once and for all. But that didn't happen. Trump then won in 2024, and that's why we need him now. Well, we actually have control there. We need Congress to go find their spines, pass the Save America Act, and start actually doing something. Can you imagine where we'd be at right now if they had started a congressional investigation in the House, which they have the full authority to do, on January 21st of 2025? That right now we would be looking at the results from that. They could have drugged people in, forced them to testify under oath, and again, if our DOJ had was actually about justice, well, we would have been locking people up for a year and a half right now. The whole country would be outraged, and we'd be going into these midterms miles ahead as the Democrat uniparty machine, this apparatus, had already been taken apart brick by brick. But that's why, again, we need to get people in Congress who will actually utilize the power and authority the people have vested in them and use it to destroy our country's political enemies.
Absolutely. It is a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, though, because we need to get those people you're talking about elected while we have a election system that we can't verify. And then we can work with them to fix our election system.
Yeah, and it's a bit
it's very tricky.
Right now we're in this sort of conflicted interest situation with Congress, right? And so it makes it really hard. People are wondering, well, why won't they pass it? I mean, look at our data, look at the evidence.
Yeah.
It's telling you why it's not passing, and a lot of people don't want to use the word rhino or Republican in name only as it relates to maybe what's going on in states like Illinois, but it becomes a very challenging conversation to have if we don't at least suggest that maybe people aren't, they have a conflict of interest, and I don't know what that conflict might be, but it's getting in their way of doing what's right by the American people.
Yeah, they're soulless ghouls. That's the bottom line. I do have some alternative terms I can offer for you. You can call them undocumented Democrats. They really don't like that. I've been referring to them as trans Republicans. They identify as Republicans, but you can take a look at them and they're really a Democrat. They're not fooling anybody. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that is one of the key problems right now is, I keep hearing this rumor, and I wish I knew which 6 senators they were talking about, that at least 6 senators are there for fraud. I'm pretty sure that's Raphael Fire Alarms Warnock and his little buddy there, Joel Ossoff. I don't think either of them were seated through legitimate elections. And, we did hear rumors that was going to be part of Trump's speech, but it sounds like people within the cabinet got him to back down on that detail. But, again, the time for talking has passed. The time for handcuffs is today. And it is time to start dragging these people in, put the fear of God in anybody else that had anything to do with this. As we do actually start investigating, prosecuting, improving our case that elections in 2020 and 2022 and 2024 were tampered with, these pathways are still open. We have to lock things down and secure them. I mean, personally, I think we need to re-register everybody in the country to vote before the next election and go to just hand-counted paper ballots. Linda Rance has a great system for that in Missouri. There's plenty of other people that have looked into the methodology. And again, there are countries, France can count every ballot in their country. People have faith that their votes were counted, adjudicated correctly, and they can get it all done in a few hours. Florida has results in, within 3 hours of elections closing every single time since 2000 when they learned their lesson. But California, I think they're still counting ballots for the mayor of LA and the governor right now. I mean, this is pure lunacy. And the fact that these deep state operatives masquerading as journalists that make up our media, they are not there to inform the American public anymore. They are there to propagandize people, to selectively edit stories, to selectively edit the news, and only give you the opinions from people who back up their talking points and never look at any truth or anything that shatters their case to pieces. And I don't know how we save the country until we get all these pieces back into alignment.
100%. Well, we're here to help that part about the voter rolls and voter registrations and certification. Our research, we've completed a ton of research, and we're assembling evidence. We've created a legal path for ourselves. We do want people who believe in getting this fixed to put their energy towards this effort. as many, it's one of the things we the people can do together. And
we're here to spread the truth.
right.
I don't know. I agree with you completely. I don't know what happened to newscasters. I remember as a kid, my folks listened to, Walter Cronkite and Barbara Walters. They thought, that those were very respectful people who seemed to have, truth telling and integrity baked into their job. And that's what everybody expected from them. When they made a mistake, they'd come on and be like, oh, I made this mistake. I need to correct it so you can trust me. Nowadays, there's no truth in reporting at all. It's all propaganda. It's all agenda.
Or organized gaslighting. I feel like we've been gaslit for
Right.
6 years, to be honest. So.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's the worst possible take on anything that happens. If they can spend something negative that should be positive, they will. I mean, it really is just pure lunacy, and maybe that's why we have all these people losing their minds right now that think they're opposite genders, whatever. So they just live in a world of lies. But before you go, are there any words of wisdom that you want to leave our audience with? And what's the best thing that they can do to help you and help Unite for Freedom? And it is uniteforfreedom.com, correct?
It is. Unite,
Okay.
the number 4 freedom.com. So I would say, if they're the kind of person that likes to roll their sleeves up and they want to get involved in something and they're kind of tired of, kicking the tires, even if they're involved in elections and they want to do something, we have to fix this before we're actually going to, in my opinion, be able to be in control of fair and free elections and these candidates we talk about that we want to get into office to make change occur. So
Yeah.
I think if you want to roll up your sleeves, join us, become a volunteer. If you don't have the time or you're dedicated yourself to some other activity, we would, love a donation, small donation, large donation. We do need to raise some funds to follow through with the legal action we're taking. We are
Sure.
a small organization. We don't have, a big influencer behind us that, with the personality can raise those funds. So we're really looking to be this sort of grassroots opportunity. I don't know, Ken, if you want to share some.
Yeah, I would say
Watch us. Keep an eye on us.
Oh,
Yes.
oh yeah, sure. Watch what we're doing because we've got a lot going on, a lot of irons in the fire. But I would say just keep hope.
Don't
We
give up.
We're tired, like Jody said, but we're still fighting and we're not giving up. And this is a national project. We've completed analysis in 35 states so far. We are cooperating with U.S. attorneys and the DOJ's voter rights department. So we're doing everything we can to plug ourselves into a national solution that'll be, we're not trying to solve elections for Illinois or for our county. We're looking to solve them, period, to restore our elections to what our founders meant for them to be so that they are, so that we know that they convey the will of the people. So if you want to be a part of that, like Jody said, become a volunteer or, share some of your treasure if you don't have the time to devote.
Well said. And yeah, you're exactly right. There is no other beacon of freedom on earth. We lose America, we lose it all. And if you think, countries that are trending the right direction right now, like El Salvador, or Argentina, or others, they will be stamped out immediately if the United States falls. That we will have some sort of global order immediately. We'll all just be slaves. So we have to save America. It isn't optional. And if you can get involved, even if it's just volunteering, I know one of the big things that we needed when I still worked over at Lindell TV was we needed help going across the country and getting cast vote records. That was something anybody could do. It didn't cost anything. All you had to do is go down and make a request. So there's plenty of things that they probably need help with that are similar. They're easy things any one of us can do. It just takes somebody getting their butt off the couch, unplugging from Facebook and going out in the real world and actually doing something. Maybe it's picking up the phone and making some calls, or if you're financially in a place where you can help out, do it, because this is a real investment in our nation's future. If we don't fix our elections, we will never have control of this country ever again, and we will descend into chaos at some point.
100%.
Well, Ken, Jody, I want to thank you both for being here with us on Behind Enemy Lines. Sorry we had some technical difficulties with Terry's connection. We're going to have to get you guys back on again in the future. To our audience, thank you for being here with us today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we'll be back on Thursday with even more. Stay tuned.